got here, there's a console that sits here. It's got vacuum tubes in it, so it stays in the air conditioning. This is 1957. It's a Stewart Warner balancer. It was $7,000 brand new then. And in 1957, $7,000 will buy you a nice brand new 2-bedroom house on a lot. And so if you're renting, you ain't gonna get the wife to stand still for an expenditure like that, you know. And so we did, but I had to balance engines. So the guy that was the representative for Stewart Warner was also the Alamide representative. Anybody know what Alamide is? That's greasing equipment, the grease gun. And so we were a little garage in an old burned out gas station on Nebraska Avenue. And we greased cars, we changed the oil, we did everything. We did whatever the customer wanted. From a paint job to an automatic transmission. I'll never forget the guy come in with a Hydromatic, 1949 old. He said, there's something wrong with my transmission, can you fix it? I said, it has to come out of the car. Well, how much will that be? It'll be $50, including parts. I never touched one. He left the car. I had a motor manual, I still have it. Opened up the motor manual, there it is, page by page, how to do it. And a couple, 3 little tools that are necessary. I called my tool man up. He come out. He had the little pieces, and he had a jack, a transmission jack, which you had to have to let it down. The jack is over in the Antique Museum. You can see it. I still have it. And I closed the doors that night, rolled the transmission down. My brother was helping me. They're heavy. They're cast iron. Put it up on the bench. Had the bench all cleaned out. I looked at the manual, did whatever it said. Took it all apart, laid it out real nice, in order. It needed seals and clutches. It was pretty obvious. Put it all back together with nice new parts, new fluid. It was all fine. And that was the beginning of my transmission history. Built a lot of those Hydromatics. Eventually I found out that you could change the planetary and make them into close ratio. And then I found out you could raise the pressure and they would shift harder. Well, first, you know, I was building racing Hydromatics. And only got like $75, you know. I mean, I ground the valves in a 52 Cadillac, complete drive-in, drive-out, $52. The invoices in the case in there. It was a different time. But anyway, I knew my engines had to be balanced. So I says to the rep, is there any balancers in this part of the country? He said, there's only one. It's down in Miami, and Jim Rathman has it. Does that ring any bell with anybody? Jim Rathman? That's an Indianapolis 500 winner, a super nice guy, built his own cars, built his own engines, drove them, and tuned them, just like me. And he knew about me. And so the rep gave me his telephone number. He says, he doesn't balance engines for customers, just his own, but he might balance them for you. I called Jim, he's a really nice guy, he really liked me. He said, you bet. You be here at 8 o'clock in the morning, you make an appointment, be here at 8 o'clock, I'll balance the engine in front of you while you're here. We load it all in the trunk of your car and you go home. We'll be out of here in the afternoon, late afternoon. So I would go down, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, drive to Miami, be back about midnight. And I was going about once a month. And so one day the Stewart Warner balancing guy, Stewart Warner rep comes in and he says, you boys need your own balancer. I said, we'll never have one, they're too expensive. I just have to keep going to Miami. He says, you two boys are the hardest working men I've ever seen. He said, I drive by this shop, it could be 7 o'clock in the morning. The doors are open, you're working. He said, I drive by here at 10 o'clock at night going home, you're still here. He said, when do you sleep? I said, there'll be plenty of time for sleeping when you're dead. He said, Stewart Warner's going to make you a deal that you can't refuse. He says, we just finished a trade show in Atlanta. We had the latest double throwdown balancer, just like Rathman's got, only a few new tricks. And we balanced rotors for 7 days. And the machine's got a couple of little nicks in it, and we can't sell it for new. But we'd like to get the new price. So we'll put that balancer in this shop, no money down, and all we want is 20% of the balancing receipts. He said, you keep the balancing receipts separate. We come by here once a month, we add them up, and you give me 20%, and that'll be your payment. He said, when the machine is paid for, it'll be all yours. We paid this machine off in 2 years. He said, this was trick. He said, this machine is going to change your life. He said, because you're just a garage now. And it was 2 stalls, it was almost like a dirt floor, those old asphalt paving bricks. Anybody ever seen them? And it had enough grease and stuff over it, or you could roll around on a creeper. And the doors didn't even hardly lock. Anybody could have got in anytime they wanted, but nobody ever broke in. He said, this machine is going to change your life. He said, you're going to become a speed shop. He said, because you will be the only balancer in the southeastern part of the United States. And they will come far and wide to get their engines balanced. And they're going to want to buy manifolds. They're going to want to buy camshells. They're going to want to buy pistons. He said, you're going to sell parts. And he said, that's the only way you're ever going to make a lot of money is selling parts. You can't work with your hands enough to get rich. He said, you have to sell stuff. And he says, you'll be a speed shop. That was 1957. 3 years later, we had a new shop 3 or 4 blocks down the street, 12200 Nebraska. This was 12828, with the big sign, Don Speed Shop, new concrete block building, and we were up and running. And here's the kicker. I said, this brings tears to my eyes, you have to excuse me. I said, there ain't nothing wrong with that machine, is there, sir? It's a big obligation. He said, no, son. He said, it's going to give you years of service. 1957, this is 2023, and it still works just as good as it ever did. It was built in Chicago by Americans. They didn't cut any corners. It wasn't a throwaway. It's an amazing thing. I don't know what's going to happen when that console finally gives up.
Is the red box part of it? Is that the drive? Is the red box part of the machine?
The wash box?
Oh, it's the wash box.
Yeah, that's where you wash parts.
Right.
That was there too. That came from
the old
in
time.
the 60s. Let's head over to my shop.